Welcome to the world of Primas. And that city shaped suspiciously like a bee? It is called Brace Yourself Bee City. And we are kicking things off with an explosion. Meet our heroes, doing their sworn duty to protect the citizens of Primas. This time, they earned their pay. They had to herd every last monster bee into a single spot so Jibaku could finish the job the only way he knows how. One holy explosion. But something felt off. Bucky is the observant type, and he could not shake how so many monster bees showed up all at once. Normally, they trickle in, a few at a time. Pink mentions the monster spawn rate has been climbing lately. And Jibaku? He is busy toying with the ones already beaten. While they bicker, the client steps in and brings up the one thing we all actually care about, the reward. In Grandpa Bee's hands sat a striped jar, a gift offered to the heroes who brought peace back to the people of Bee City. Bucky stares at the jar, still trying to figure out what it even is. Pink opens her mouth, already certain. It was the golden syrup, one of the 3 greatest sweets in the entire world, a delicacy found nowhere but this city. Translation, it was rare, expensive, and dripping with value. And Grandpa Bee just handed them an enormous jar of the stuff. Pink wasted no time demanding her cut. Bucky, ever the generous one, gave his verdict. Fine, lackey. You have earned yourself a single lick of this syrup. Pink did not find that fair, and she was not too thrilled about her current rank either. And so a conflict erupts between the 2 GCs. Pink, insulted at one measly lick after playing live bait for the monster bees. Bucky, fuming that his partner turned out greedy and shameless. How dare she want more than a single lick? But while the 2 haggle, a young man with spiky hair watches from the sidelines. This stranger seems interested in the GC of Primas. That means Bucky. He looks a little tense, but he steels himself for an introduction. I present myself for the challenge, he screams. Loud, way too loud. Pink nearly jumps out of her skin at the sheer energy of it. The scare hits so hard that she drops the jar. The very jar she had clutched after winning it off Bucky. The jar shatters on the ground. The syrup spills in every direction. Total loss. Watching that precious reward soak into the dirt freezes both GCs solid. Their brains simply refuse to process the horror. My name is Kai, great child of the third world. Try us, the boy announces, without a care in the world. And riding the momentum, he keeps going. GC of Primas, Mr. Bucky, please, fight me. I pulled off something genuinely remarkable here. He got the GCs of Primas and Secundas, who were violently at each other's throats 1 second ago, to cooperate in flawless harmony. United as one, they proceed to absolutely wreck him. Kai asked for a duel. What he got was a beatdown. Having swiftly disposed of the unwanted challenger, Bucky and Pink turn back to salvaging whatever syrup is left. Meanwhile, the GC of Trias stays face down in the dirt. But while they were distracted, the sacred spirits were having a feast. Burnby at least had manners, sipping syrup off the ground through a straw. Jibaku just went face first with his tongue. Bucky scolds the little pink balls for acting without permission. Pink, meanwhile, is simply jealous. The GCs even try to force the spirits to spit the stolen syrup back out. Grandpa Bee watches this masterclass in pettiness, absolutely horrified. Maybe he should never have brought up the syrup at all. A gesture of gratitude curdled into pure greed by the end. Now let us check back in on what Kai is plotting this time. His first impression was, let us be honest, a disaster. But it is never too late for a second shot. Kai owns up to his mistake and decides to write a letter of apology. He proofreads it and decides it came out rather nicely. Maybe now, with proper introductions, he can finally connect with his fellow professionals. Meanwhile, our favorite great children are still sulking over the high-profit opportunity that slipped through their fingers. But they also start to wonder, who exactly was that kid from earlier? Suddenly, a gust of wind slices across Bucky's path, catching him completely off guard. He turns to see what just whizzed by, and there it is, an arrow. Someone shot an arrow at him. Look a little closer, and there is a letter pinned to the tip. Bucky starts reading, and the contents are deeply unsettling. Hey there, nice to meet you, Bucky-kun. My name is Kai. I want to have fun killing you. And the note signs off with a cute little heart. Glancing behind him, Bucky spots Kai crouched behind a tree. His face says friendship. His actions say something far more sinister. Bucky tells Pink to act natural, but get out of there fast. A guy like that could only be some kind of creep. The two power walk away, leaving Kai genuinely baffled by the reaction. The spiky-haired boy demands an explanation. He worked so hard to write a polite, friendly letter. Turns out Kai has a slight problem with common sense. Blending warm pleasantries with the stated intent to murder total strangers only gave Bucky the chills. That little note was genuinely disturbing. So the current GC of Primus reaches a conclusion. There is no point running from this lunatic. Better to settle it now before the weirdo dreams up something even creepier. But what could this guy possibly want? Harassing people he has never even met. Kai is shocked Bucky figured it out. Honestly, people get offended over the smallest things these days. You cannot even fire an arrow at someone without catching heat for it. Anyway, Kai lays out what he wants. A duel between GCs. Simple as that. Both GCs are stunned. Wait, what? You are a GC? Why did you not say so earlier? Except Kai had been screaming exactly that for the past hour. Are these two just deaf? Well, all is well that ends well. The first impression was a catastrophe, but the introductions are finally out of the way. Now Kai can focus on the only thing he cares about: combat. He raises his staff, and perched on top sits a sacred spirit with braided hair. Kai unleashes a violent strike at full power. For a guy who came across as a clumsy goofball up to this point, even in the heat of combat, he still does not look like someone who takes much seriously. But then he flips the script. The goal was never to land a clean staff blow. It was to erase the distance between Bucky and Kai's sacred spirit. And it was a smart move. Bucky finds himself wide open with that sacred spirit now dangerously close. The hands spread open. The clock ticks. The explosion is devastating. From the middle of the smoke stands Kai. He grins and compliments Bucky's speed. And there is Bucky, clinging to a tree trunk. A masterful dodge. He escaped the direct hit with a single, perfectly timed leap. Bucky takes a look at the spot the explosion tore through. No question about it. The damage was real. Taking that one head-on could have been seriously dangerous. Pink finally seems to piece together who this guy actually is. She mentions hearing that one of the GCs fought with a staff, which would make this one the GC of Trias. Kai seizes the moment to wrap up the introductions still hanging in the air. He is the GC licensed in martial arts, and his sacred spirit is Bakuzan. Perched atop the staff sits a little pink ball with braids, holding a poised, elegant posture. With every introduction finally settled, Pink notes there is one last loose end, though she already has a hunch about the answer. She asks if this whole encounter was really about Kai wanting to test the power of Spaak's successor. Kai confirms it. Just like Pink said, Spaak was the inspiration for every GC of this generation, and the GC of Trias is no exception. Kai is all geared up to launch into a flashback, but Bucky beats him to it with a swift kick to the back of his neck. Bucky is fed up again. It is always because of Spaak, he goes on. Spaak has nothing to do with him. His life would be a nightmare if every single day some maniac showed up itching for a fight, all over their worship of a person Bucky himself barely even knew. Kai criticizes the cheap shot. Sneak attacks are not befitting of Spaak's successor. Not befitting of the successor, huh? Then here is another rock to the skull. Every utterance of that name grates on Bucky a little harder. He says it again. I already told you, I am not Spaak. But Kai is not interested in the argument. Bucky is the successor of Spaak. End of discussion. With that, the challenger swings his staff again, and the challenged is already scurrying off like a cockroach. Fight me, Kai yells. You are so annoying, Bucky fires back. Apparently, accepting random duels from total strangers does not rank high on Bucky's list of priorities, judging by how he keeps fleeing like the devil from a crucifix. And Kai simply will not take no for an answer. The logic here is airtight. If the other guy refuses to duel, the obvious solution is to attack him from behind without warning. Operating on these sterling ethical principles, Kai fires off another offensive with Bakuzan. An explosion erupts right next to Bucky. He dodged that one by a hair. Then another comes from the front, forcing him to slam on the brakes. Bucky feels boxed in. Kai's staff is not long enough to give him a reach advantage, but his sheer skill makes every strike fast and precise. Kai looks possessed, biting down on his staff, demanding the successor of Spaak. Even Bucky finds the obsession a little weird. He says Kai seems more in love with Spaak than Pink is. Kai breaks into a sweat but denies it. And he takes the opening to finally kick off that flashback. Kai's worship of Spaak traces back to a story from long ago. Years ago, a chaos monster attacked young Kai's village. The beast was a colossal, monstrous bull, so powerful that no one had the strength to bring it down. And then out of nowhere, right in front of that ugly little boy, a force of nature arrived. His name was Spaak. In a single instant, the monster that had seemed unbeatable crumbled to the ground. To young Kai, that was Spaak, the strongest GC of them all. And so we get yet another cliché tale. A character idolizes someone, dreams of becoming as strong as their hero, and decides the path there is attacking random innocent strangers on the street who are just trying to do their jobs. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kai. In this lunatic's mind, beating someone who is not even fighting back counts as proof of the strength he supposedly earned from training for years instead of doing anything useful with his life. Kai swings yet another ordinary staff attack. Bucky dodges again with a simple hop. This duel seems to have hit a stalemate, but something feels different this time. Bucky's face scrunches up even uglier as he senses that something is wrong. Pink tries to talk the boys into stopping. All these explosions are tearing the forest apart, but Kai could not care less. Left to his own devices, he would happily fling that staff around all day long, and surprise, that is exactly what he does, going at Bucky once more. Finally, Bucky decides to break the stalemate and drive this fight toward its conclusion. Something is brewing in the boy's head. His stance has changed for this round. Bakuzan comes flying off the staff, but this time Bucky does not try to dodge. Instead, he charges straight at the sacred spirit. Watching Bucky pull another reckless stunt, Pink panics. And Kai is stunned too, as if he were not the one who just attacked, as if this were not exactly what he has been chasing for hours. Bucky seizes Bakuzan. Then he wraps his arms around it, taking the full force of the sacred explosion straight to the body. No defense, no protection. What is the big idea? Asks Kai, one of the most perpetually confused side characters in history. Bucky tells him to shut up and keep it down. Clearly, he has spotted something nobody else has. Kai starts glancing around, and finally the situation dawns on him. A massive monster beehive was hanging right above their heads. If Bucky had not smothered that explosion, it would have struck the hive and triggered a devastating counterattack from the whole swarm. They note this hive is far from normal. These things never grow anywhere near this large. But on the flip side, it explained all those attacks the city had been suffering. By pure accident, the GCs stumbled right onto the root of the entire crisis. Bucky already has a plan locked and loaded. He unfastens Bakuzan from Kai's staff. Then he asks Pink to hand over Burnby. Kai asks whether Bucky should maybe go get treated, after taking that explosion to the chest. Bucky says there is no time for that. They have already been spotted, and the monster bees are coordinating their assault as we speak. Outnumbered and outpositioned, the GCs are at a serious disadvantage. The only way out is one concentrated strike, aimed at wiping out every bee in a single blow. And that is exactly why all three sacred spirits are needed. Kai gets the plan, but worries whether Bucky can actually pull it off in his current state. Bucky just laughs. Kai is new here, so he does not know yet, but the GC of Primas is the single most ambitious kid in all of the 12 worlds. To him, this is just one more challenge to get the blood pumping. Kai is taken aback by those words. Maybe, just maybe, this kid has something more to him than simply being Spaak's successor. Pink warns that the bees are ready. If Bucky is going to do something, he had better do it now. And the swarm strikes. Thousands of stingers come hurtling toward the heroes like a storm of spears. Just one detail left in the plan. Get the sacred spirits fired up to give it everything they have. Bucky stresses how much this attack matters. If they fail, it is not just the GCs who pay the price. The entire bee village gets overrun next. Motivated by the stakes, the sacred spirits join hands and brace themselves. Calling out each of their names, Bucky gives the command. Blow it all up! In yet another never-before-seen maneuver, Bucky conjures the triple sacred explosion. The instant the sacred spirits fire, Bucky collapses, knocked out cold by the wounds Kai's attacks left behind. Pink scolds her unconscious colleague on the ground for yet another wildly irresponsible plan. But since he cannot hear a word of it, she goes ahead and praises him. She admits it was downright impressive that Bucky kept fighting while that badly hurt. Kai acknowledges that even those injuries came from a selfless act. By absorbing Kai's attack, Bucky bought the precious seconds needed to form the plan and pull all of them out of a deadly situation alive. So the Monster Bee crisis appears to be solved. But there is still the little matter of Kai's duel. Pink asks if Kai still wants another round with Bucky to settle once and for all whether he is a worthy successor to Spaak. But Kai shakes his head, and then he smiles, as if the answer were already crystal clear. Bucky is the GC of Primas, and he beat me completely.